And what button do I use to change cameras?
You'll see it's pretty straightforward. You can use your changing gears to move between the vehicles, between the drivers and the camera position.
Okay.
Is a Monday night, which means that we are back racing once again. And with me in the commentary box for round number one, two, I'd say very different people, but that would be a lie, because Stephen we had at the end of last year, and Craig we saw him in the Porsche as well as in our Monday night league. But thank you to both Stephen and Craig who've decided to take up the official commentary position for the next 6 weeks, allowing me to get into the driver's seat for the season, which I am really, really, really freaking excited for. So guys, thank you very, very much for allowing me to get back behind the wheel and driving that green Mamba and showing you guys that Mamba fever is actually a thing.
Volunteering, sure, that's a tall horse. Yeah, I thought the hostage situation had to go. No, it's brilliant to be back, especially with some great racing. Being part of the last SARCO season where we actually had the Escorts versus BMWs. Now it's all about the Porsches. Guten Tag at this point, and really looking forward to seeing how you guys throw the Porsches around, and especially with the qualifying rounds, it's very interesting to see how it's all going to work out, especially with the Porsches being a little bit more mid-engine, tail-happy vehicles. Had a little bit of a run on them on the PC, and well, let's say the racing's going to be close and there's going to be great action, because there's no pulling away in those cars. Nope, it's all 100%. About how you can get around the corners.
And Craig, let's just talk to you. You've been part of one of these qualifyings before. We literally take your 3 sessions, we take the average, and that is your qualifying time for the session. Just tell some of our viewers, what is it that goes through your mind in one of these sessions?
Well, Dylan, thanks again. I thought that bank account number I sent you was for the payment for the commentating, but clearly I was wrong. I just want to say it's intense. I mean, you can sit behind the wheel when you're practicing on your own and the times look good, but when that 15-minute starts, the butterflies kick in, the sweaty hands kick in, and it's time. You've got 3 sessions. I don't think I've ever done 3 sessions in the previous qualifiers. I normally back out of 2 and realize that I'm not going to go any quicker. But I think that these Porsches are, in fact, the bragging right car. Yeah. You know, in ACC, our Thursday night championship, you've got setup, you've got different makes of cars, so you've got a lot of driver excuses that can come forward. But in this series, one make, no setup, 100%. Pedal to the metal, rubble to the tire, yeah.
Well, I have to. We are sorry, guys. We are just gonna just cut to the action that we have behind the scenes here. So we do have everyone talking. What will happen, guys, is coming to the end of the session, you'll see that I will quickly jump out because I'll need to go and get my lobby ready so that I'll be racing, and then I'll hand over the commentary skills to both Craig and Stephen.
Skills? Well, I think he's talking about you, Craig. I've got no skills.
And over to me. I'm having a look at the screen, so I'm going to jump out of the video so that I can watch the screen and follow who's doing the times.
No, that would be brilliant. And I've got to say,
Fantastic.
one thing that's we talk about sweaty hands, and Dylan, you mind raising your hands up for us, eh? But the sweaty hands. Oh no, you took them off. Damn. Dylan earlier had gloves on, and he was making fun of me of how brilliant they are. But as we take a look to the circuit, the guys are really trying to push these Porsches a little bit early on, giving enough spacing as well. So very nice to see it, giving each other a bit of room to try and get those flying laps in without interfering too much. Now, one make series, it's all down to the driver and how they're going to push themselves to it. And the Porsches being a really good way of showing it. Also, it is a DLC pack and has really just cleaned the slate, cleaned the slate for all the drivers. And in that, you would also notice we have a new sponsor. A big thank you to Auto Wash Fourways Gardens Shopping Centre jumping on board with us and really putting it out there. And also having our sponsor racing with us. So putting the money where his mouth is and joining us in the series as well.
Yes, I do want to just say thanks to D. We've had some negotiations happening, and essentially what he's going to be doing, so all those guys that are out in the Joburg area, you can take your car through to the Auto Wash Fourways, and you will be able to get your own customized package. I hope that was right, D. But there are 3 separate packages that you're able to go, and all you do is you just quote SARCO, and you'll be able to get your preferred rate off on your car wash. So a great initiative there.
Definitely, SARCO putting everything where it can, and this is what it's all about, growing the community and having a lot of fun in the process. But if we take a look at the times, I mean, so far the quickest time 1:34.7, which is blazingly fast. As we take a look at Horn Dog SA, that is Andrew Horn, and he's having a bit of fun, having to play a little bit of dodgems as well. But going from racing a 4-hour at Desi Raceway, jumping on Saturday into his Nash for a practice day with the Sports Car Club, now jumping into the sim, I'm sure he's really enjoying the time behind the wheel and having a bit of fun. Jake's as well, really one to keep an eye out for. As we saw last season, he can really push himself and push the competitors. So glad to see him back in, and now in trying out a different Porsche, or trying out a different car that we usually see him in, and looking at sideways
action.
So really just showing a bit of Tokyo drift there, but these are what you have to do with the car. I mean, there's next to no assists in them. I mean, on Thursday nights we see the guys utilizing the ABS, the traction control, and really trying, keeping that car straight. As Craig brought up, it's all about setups and precise movement. The Porsche, on the other hand, is downright, you got to get that steering in, you got to hold on for dear life, and hope you don't go off into the weeds.
I must say, I find that where the times are standing at the moment is, I don't want to be rude and say that it's what we expected, but I still think that Johan is a little bit out. I see he's jumped up to 6th place there. And I expect good things from Sly Pete and Foot Fiery. So I don't think, they've settled into it just yet, warming tyres up, getting the feel of the car. I did notice when I drove this car that if you learn how to use the weight transfer, you can, once you've figured that out, you can get the car around the track quite nicely. It's not a very flat car. You've got to use that dip of the nose and the raising of the tail to be able to turn that car in.
Yeah, Craig, what I was actually doing is when I go into the braking, and you'll be able to see that just before that turn-in point, I just touch the brakes one more time just to bring that nose in, just before I hit that accelerator. In terms of my practice, I'm just scraping on the extremities of the 135, so I'm hoping to get into the 134, but that will be something that you're able to look out for while I'm driving.
Now we're going and talking about the whole qualifiers. I mean, this is what it is. It's just the qualifiers. And this is to set up the season, and it's going to be an exciting one. But take us through the qualifiers, the thoughts behind the qualifiers for people that are not used to seeing this, especially coming in a sim racing format, of how the qualifiers work.
So generally what we would do is we would give each person 3 different 15-minute time slots, and within that 15-minute time slot, each driver has to put in their fastest time. We then take that average, because obviously consistency is key. So it's not just go in and bang down your fastest lap and off you go. It's about making sure that you're consistent, and that's what we want while the guys are still doing their qualifier.
Now that's a nice thing to work on, is consistency, so you ensure you're in the right class, and it does kind of weed it out. I mean, we've had times where you have your one lap wonders, if we could put them that way, that come out, they put an insane time, but they're unable to maintain that pace over a long period. And that's something we always have to keep an eye out for, especially into it. So nice to see a bit of a longer process in doing it, but it's to ensure more consistency of the drivers that are running in the class. So no one's at any advantage, if I could put it that way. I mean, down in the lobby, we were having a chat to all the drivers, and the excitement's there, the enthusiasm of wanting to get in with these cars, really have a good go with it, and trying out something new from last season, which was with the vintage racing, and now coming into the Auto Wash Porsche Euro Cup. I've got to say, it's glad to hear, Johan VDV for one, developing a control box.
As you say that, commentators curse, Johan VDV hits the wall.
Yep, he should actually focus more on driving than listening to us. But for what we don't know is he actually went and built a box especially for Assetto Corsa to run ignition switches and that. I mean, that's exciting parts to it. Nice to see Hills also just trying to get an understanding, trying to get himself going. I mean, it's a bit of a tricky track. We've got Brands Hatch's personally my favorite circuit, because
Must agree.
Whoa!
Commentators curse. We seem to be. Let's go and look at someone else.
So I mean, Brands Hatch is one of these circuits that is a mixture of high speed and balance on the vehicles. And you go to Assetto Corsa Competizione, you go to Assetto Corsa, or any game, any other sims where you're running on Brands Hatch, and it always provides a bit of a trick, because looks are deceiving. It looks so easy, but the hills, the camber, and the corners can just tighten up on you on a flash, makes it even more tricky to get used to. And I think where the Porsches are going to be finding the struggle here is just finding that balance between tucking that nose in, allowing the car to rotate just enough, especially very easy to lose time through turn 1, which is that massive downhill, which you can see a lot of guys either braking too much or too little or running wide. So very difficult to, you got to try and figure out the right balance to these cars. Now, you guys have had plenty of practice in the Porsches and going around Brands Hatch. How does the Porsche feel compared to the other vehicles on Assetto Corsa around Brands Hatch?
I haven't run Assetto Corsa around Brands Hatch, I must be honest. But just what I really, really love about Brands Hatch is just the bumps. Entering a corner slightly, at a slightly different angle. If you know where that bump is, you can either use it to rotate the car, if that's the sort of car you got, or if you've got a very stiff car, you're trying to avoid those bumps. And I think with these Porsches, you might use the bumps of Brands Hatch to get the weight transfer where you need it to be. And then, of course, I think you're going to find guys just Brands Hatch. You cannot push too hard. It's one of the old types of circuits where some of the newer circuits that are flat, they allow you to push very hard, where this isn't very forgiving at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the difficulty that comes, down to it, is trying to find out the right balance. And these, the Porsches have always been one. They're tricky cars to drive, but if you can get them right, they are an absolute banger around the circuit. And I mean, going into the season itself, we're going to see, more and more technical tracks coming out, where I think we'll see a lot more interesting ways that guys are going to try and get these cars right. Uh, from making them either far too stiff or make them just right or a little bit softer. So it's going to be interesting to see how they will get these cars settling down to do the fastest times and do it consistently over and over. I know a lot of people are interested to see how Johan's going to be able to do, how Terry Wolf as well. So, I mean, there's a couple of drivers like Pete as well. He's been one that we keep an eye out for, because last season he was really one to keep an eye out for. Brandon Santos, another name that's just been thrown out there, is also a really good one to keep an eye out for. So I think we're in for a really interesting season, and I'm wondering how it's all going to turn out. Craig, if you had to foretell, go and look into the future for the 6 weeks, what do you think you can plan?
You see, I think you definitely have in any racing series your top, let's call it top 10 drivers, and it's always a gamble on how that top 10 is going to unfold. What I have enjoyed is there's a couple of new guys that have done a season or two now that are showing some serious pace, and it's not just cut and dry. Like you said, there are the Sly Pete's, there are Johan VDV, who I suspect are going to make it into the A lobby, and give the regular top 10 a hard time.
Well, that's the thing. When it comes to SARCO, it's never over until the checkered flag comes down. And that's the thing. And the whole community is just about pushing each other to that next limit, try and get to the top as much as possible, and at the same time help each other out. And sometimes to the detriment of you losing a position, because you might have given that guy a second or 2 seconds up on his time. So it's nice to see that. And I mean, we take a look back at the times. The guys sitting 134.3, 134.3. I mean, you look at how close the times are of the top 6, all 134s. So, I mean, incredibly quick times there. And I think it's one to keep an eye out for, because that seems to be the good, the quickest times that we can pull. The 134.37, that is an incredible time. And, well, I can't wait to see what the racing is going to bring.
You've got your multiple SARCO champion in 4th place, and well, that's the point. He's in 4th. We've got 3 drivers who are, well, let's have a look, 2 tenths quicker and 4 tenths quicker than he is. So he might improve in the next session or two, but it's a very good benchmark for everybody there. Your top 6 are covered by 6 tenths of a second, and the whole field is covered by 1.8 seconds. You don't even get that in Formula One.
And that's absolutely it, and without the precision that goes with it, because here at SARCO, it's all about setting the bar, and right here in South Africa, we always strive to set that bar, take on the international standard, and we talk about Pete going and catching a slide once again. Brands Hatch
trying to push that last little, he's trying to get those 200ths of a second on Ash.
But as we said, that whole Brands Hatch is just difficult to work out. It looks easy, but it can catch you out in a hurry. And
I think it's a brilliant qualifier track. It's a proper driver's circuit, and you will find that the top drivers will come to the fore around Brands Hatch versus guys, especially with no setup. Even your setup around Brands Hatch will still take quite a bit of a drive to get it up into that top 10. So I think it's a brilliant qualifier track. It's got a little bit of everything in the mix, and yeah, very good results there.
No, absolutely. And I mean, we take a look at Ash. You got Pete right up there in second place. And then we've also got Andrew Horn. Lovely to see him back up there, having a bit of fun behind the wheel and really trying to push himself that little bit more every single time. So, you know, the top three really coming out to show what they can do. But, I mean, the whole grid is planning on being right up there and really putting the effort.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. Sorry if I cut you off there, but we're all good this side. And Craig will be inviting you now and getting the second session underway.
All right.
Fantastic.
As you heard there, second session to have a go at it. Now, once again, just have to try and push yourselves that little bit more. Unfortunately, some drivers not able to make it through tonight due to very cases. Michael Koenig, usually a bit of a wild card joker that chucks in here. Unfortunately, not feeling so well, but is planning to be part of the series and try and push himself that little bit more every time. And you know, we will maybe some more coming out the woodwork. Who knows? We can't tell. The part of the Auto Wash Porsche Euro Cup. Anything can happen.
Wait to see the next qualifying, especially that the second Mamba is joining us in the next qualifying, and he's been you know, shouting a lot about Mamba fever. So let's see if Mamba fever is a thing in qualifying.
Well, we'll have to see. Let's see if he remembers where the accelerator is. It's on the far left, right?
That's right, guys. We're just waiting for Craig. So there's Craig. So he's now in. So once I made him race director, we can get going.
Yeah. So I think he's still set his accelerator to the far left-hand side, and then the brake is the far right-hand side.
Okay, just checking.
I think he's got to figure it all out. You know, let's hope he's got his gloves on the right hands, and see how it goes for him.
We're not getting any hand gestures, so that tells us a very good sign at this point as well. So it's glad to see Dylan jump.
So what we'll have to do is
Can we move into another session and see if maybe that will help him?
Yeah, we can.
Let's try him in.
Sorry guys, we're just seeing they're busy in the lobby trying to get ready.
The next 2 sessions.
Hopefully that'll help him.
It's very glad to see Dylan jumping in back behind the wheel, behind his trusty thrust.
Can somebody just put that up on the Discord? Just that if I touch something, I'm going to change settings and I'm going to
put it up now.
Thank you.
So looking at our competitors here, we've got Brandon De Santos, who we've mentioned before. Expecting good things from him. Gav, always very, very quick. Then Terry, who did.
That's like in 2 months.
Okay, let's see if that
Terry
makes a difference. But
Terry always being one to keep an eye out for, and unfortunately you're going to be leaving us fairly soon out of South Africa, as you'll be immigrating, but we'll be continuing on, and he is also getting hold of a Fanatec to up his game a little bit. So nice to see the evolution of it from just jumping in behind a simple wheel, playing from a controller, going to a Logitech, and then slowly evolving the gear. That's what we're going to say. The evolution of gear that we've seen from the beginning of the year till now, guys have been really stepping it up, trying to get the new stuff, get load cell pedals, stronger steerings, stronger force feedback, work on their FOVs, which is the field of view for people that are not 100% sure. Just trying to find that extra tenth of a second on their competitors. So I've got to say, it's really glad to see the mix coming out. As the guys head out and nearly lose it in the pits as well. And that's Dylan, who's planning to really have a bit of fun out there, trying to warm up those tires as much as possible. And Green Mamba Fever, just in the wrong colors, leading the charge for SARCO. We've got Brandon Sotos in the pits, and Scott busy making his way out. So as you can see, all the Porsches heading out onto Brands Hatch for their qualifying run. It's all about who has got the pace to keep it going throughout the 15 minutes. Now, it's for some people, they might think it's very easy, but unfortunately, it turns into quite a tricky situation as they've got to really push themselves that extra little bit every single time. Gav coming by and looking to really push himself a little bit more, and has got a point to prove, as we heard in the lobby, was quite excited about the upcoming season and wants to try and get right into that alpha tier and push himself along. So definitely fun to see. Dylan Hall coming by now, part of the the commander chief of SARCO, and he's looking to try and push himself that little bit, trying to dip the nose in, get a little bit of a slide, and really just throw that Porsche around, using as much of the circuit as possible. He has got an accident in front of him, so he's got to be very careful of that and try and get himself that a little bit more throughout the race. So guys are really pushing it that extra little bit early on in the session, and mistakes are being made. Cold tires is something to really keep an eye out for, and a lot of guys have to just try and calm themselves down, pull themselves towards himself a little bit, and get back into it as they make their way to start their lap right here at Brands Hatch. Dylan using as much of the curb as possible through turn 1, heading to turn 2. Now it's all about just dabbing on the brakes and really just turn the Porsche in. Don't want to throw the tail out too much. You want to carry as much momentum heading into turn 3. As turn 3, you got to brake a little bit harder, change down, and really just utilize as much of the circuit as possible onto the straight and heading towards turn 4. But definitely a lot of work has to be done here. Scott being one to also keep an eye out for, has really gone that extra mile and developed the driving. So glad to see it. Tyler wanting to really prove a point. Last season was quite a one to watch as he unfortunately loses it. Once again, Brands Hatch, you just touch the curbing and it will really throw you for a Fruit Loop. So pushing that extra little bit, and you can see a bit of nodes damage. Hopefully that doesn't affect Tyler's time too much, and he's able to try and push his way through. Whoa, a bit of close contact between Brandon De Santos as he's trying to really go that extra mile. So something he has to be very careful about is they don't want to muck up each other's times, but really focus on pushing themselves that extra little bit as they continue going around. With 11 minutes left of it, and you can see Art Kill and really just hooking it sideways and nearly losing it. So a bit of a battle going on with guys trying to really control the cars actually, and that's the main factor, is trying to keep your car on circuit to get that average lap time. Tyler really trying to push that little bit more every single time to try and get ahead of everyone. So definitely one to keep an eye out for, and come the race is very much like a bulldog that will not let go and push himself that extra little bit. So we'll have to see how he goes in the race.
Sorry to have disappeared there on you. The joys of my mountain connection. I hope you can hear me fine now.
Absolutely, we can hear you. We missed you terribly, and hopefully the mountains are going to be a little bit nicer to you now. But so far what we've had is the drivers really battling to get to grips with the circuit. A lot of guys pushing in that extra little bit, hooking the curbs, and the Porsche's really not liking it and seeing them for a total Fruit Loop. And that's the thing. Running consistently on this circuit sounds easy, but
are you sure it's not the Fruit Loops behind the wheel?
Well, I'm trying to be nice. You know, I got told to be nice.
Oh, I didn't get that memo. So you be nice, and then I'll just add the fruity bits in between.
No, they're doing the fruity tooties. Don't worry about that. As
I see they're doing the loops all by themselves here tonight.
Absolutely, and this is the thing we got to talk about. I mean, yeah, you got to try and push yourselves that extra little bit, but at the same time, not not wreck your drives and getting an average lap time through it, because you got to remember these guys are utilizing it as practice for the coming season and getting to grips with these cars. And a lot of guys have just got the DLC pack just to do this, so they had very minimal time to actually practice with these cars and get used to it. Now we're getting into a massive season, part of the Auto Wash Porsche Euro Cup. So they've got to really just find the time between work, home life, and sim racing at this point, right here in SARCO.
That right there is always the balance. And the other big issue is that there's only 13 spots available in that Lobby A. And we all want to be in Lobby A. Let's be honest. If I'm not mistaken, it might even be less than 13 spots. I can't remember who all progresses automatically into Lobby A. It might be 12 spots. If I remember, it's the top 3 in Lobby A, and the winner of Lobby B automatically goes through. But yeah, there are very few spots available. And like I said, the bragging rights is in this championship, where we're all driving the same car with no setup on the same track. So if you are 10th, that means you are the 10th quickest driver in SARCO.
And that's where the difficulty comes in, is just trying to, you're trying to get there. You want to hit that alpha tier, and every single one of these guys want to just go for it as much as possible and chomp it. So it's sad to not see you busy going around and getting into it. You've incredible driver, but in turn it's nice to see Dylan getting back behind the wheel. I mean, we don't talk too much about Dylan's past escapades in SARCO, actually being one of the guys to start it up and keep the SARCO name running, which we've actually got some apparel coming out soon, so really looking forward to that. Hats.
Really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
agreed.
So apparel coming out. We're going to discuss with you guys. So if you want to come and support the SARCO, we got stickers, we got hats, we got lots coming out that really will help grow the channel, grow the community, and we would love to have you guys. If you've got a PlayStation 4, you've got a Assetto Corsa or a Assetto Corsa Competizione, we want you guys to come join us, come join the Discord, have fun with us, and put your test to the metal. I mean, Terry Wolford, a national champion in V8 and son of Larry Wolford. We have got Dylan, who does F400 endurance karting. We got Andrew Horn, who races in national Formula Fords and has been champion. And we've got so many real racing car names, and we've got some amazing talent from sim racing. If we talk about Johan VDB, we talk about Pete, we talk about Sly Pete. We've got so many names all coming together into one championship that is just vastly exciting to actually see, and it really bridges the gap between sim racing and on circuit racing, and the guys actually show their mettle, and sometimes the sim races are actually quicker than the guys are on circuit. So
I do agree with you. I mean, one of the big calling cards with SARCO at the moment is the fact that you've got guys that are racing in real life. Where else would you get to race? Like you say, Terry, who is a national champion, and it's fantastic to at least be able to put yourself up against real race car drivers, as we like to call them, and it takes it to the next level, let's put it that way, where you're not just taking part against guys who are sitting in their lounge and practicing sim racing. There's guys that have got to miss races because guess what, chaps, we got to get to the real circuit to go and do some real racing, and that's brilliant.
Brandon DeSantos really just trying to push that Porsche a little bit more as the clock starts to run out, and these guys are just trying to go as much as possible. And I wish we could actually just show you how Dylan's screen is looking at the moment, where just arm over arm really trying to turn that steering in, and that really tells you how physical these cars actually are. I mean, we talk about Corsa Competizione, where your your McLaren's got 728 or 320 degrees of movement on the steering, to the Porsches where you're using the full 1080 degrees rotation on your physical stim steering to try and get that car around the corner. So these cars are way more physical than their more modern counterparts, which the guys participate in. So it takes a different driving style from very precise movements of the GT3s to really hanging it out and turning these cars as hard as possible into the corners. So yeah, it's nice to see the change in dynamic between the vintage cars and the more modern cars, and also seeing how the drivers have to adapt that driving style to suit it.
I agree. The nice thing with the older cars as well is there's a lot more mechanical grip, which always lends to closer racing. I've noticed in the GT3s, especially in the Porsche Cup in the previous season, was you just couldn't get within 1.5 to 2 seconds behind the cars, and you were getting front wash and you couldn't follow to make that overtake. Where with these, you can be all over each other, sliding it around like we're watching Brandon do there.
That's the thing that comes to it, is just you're having to push yourself that little bit more. And this is where also we have to talk about some of the hardware that comes into it, because yes, you can pick up a G29 and jump in with it and really push yourself. You grab a Thrustmaster, but I do feel the guys with the Thrustmasters with little bit more bigger steerings, your 310 mils, your 320 mils, your Sparco rims, namely the round rims versus the more squared off Sparco competition rim,
yes,
have a bit more advantage because they can go hand over hand a bit easier, and they've got a more diameter to be able to work with, especially in these cars. So some of the hardware where that does play a very small part in trying to do it. I mean, we've seen guys on controllers absolutely dominate. But it's nice to see in terms
of the
steering.
Brandon's on a controller,
and he's absolutely.
I don't know if he's got a wheel for this season.
I'm not quite sure, but
I don't think he has.
But I mean, he absolutely dominates it out there. So it's nice to see the little bits that come into it. Some advantages can be seen, and others not so much. I mean, if you take a look at the guys running a Formula steering from Thrustmaster, or the Fanatec Formula steerings, or any of those much smaller steerings, they're going to be having a little bit more difficulty with these cars. The amount of rotation that's needed, you're just going to cross your arms, and you're not going to have a fun time.
By the looks of the front wheels, there's a lot of arm crossing going on.
Well, these guys.
I see Dylan has definitely taken the top time so far out of the 2 sessions. Is it Liam or he looks like he's around about on par with what Ashley was doing in the previous session. So Dylan's got a very clear lead at the moment, but again, quite tight, I'd say, from 3rd, 4th and 5th. No, 3rd and 4th, very tight.
And once again, running those 134s, which is the quick times we're seeing. So definitely the Alpha tier is going to be one to keep an eye out for the season. But we cannot count out Bravo tier, because Bravo tier is close racing the whole time. These are guys that are still acing to go for Alpha the following season. So, and sometimes the Bravo guys get invited to come and participate with the Alpha guys as a bit of a joker class, the wild cards of sort, which we saw in the vintage make a massive impact. And that's where it's lovely to see things like this. But as the guys start finishing up their laps and make their way around Brands Hatch to push it that extra little bit, but I don't think we're going to see our top 4 change. Tyler really doing everything he can, trying to eke out that last couple of split seconds and try and pull a rabbit out of a hat at this point. But you could see the battle
Trying to
scars,
squeeze this.
and you could see the battle
Yeah.
scars on that Porsche. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be able to do it. We'll have to just keep an eye out. Makes his way around the final corner, hard onto the gas, and
It doesn't look like it. I found as well that leaving it to that last lap, the pressure just becomes far too much. And inevitably you don't go quicker on the last minute or so of the qualifying session. You'll notice that sort of roundabout midway through the session, there's very few times that actually start to drop. People are looking at the clock. There's 7 minutes to go. We got to start pushing harder. We start to make mistakes. So I find that if you haven't banked that lap sort of at least halfway through, I don't see you going any quicker.
also, I think the fatigue also kicks in. 15 minutes of really pushing at you, the mental fatigue starts to come into play, and
Yes.
that's where it comes in.
You also very quickly lose sight when you're pushing really hard. You lose sight of things like your tires are worn out and not at optimal, but because you've got that red mist, you just keep pushing.
Absolutely, as see, just trying to get ourselves up and going again, but gotta say, really, really well done to the guys for the second split, and really just pushing themselves that extra little bit. Part of
Yeah, I must say, well done to
the
Dylan.
Euro Cup.
So, guys, I am back. I hope you enjoyed that qualifying.
That was
I thought it was
really,
racing
really good.
rules.
I
But
enjoyed
who was
this
the other
not
one
top,
then?
but I mean,
There was another one.
Okay,
but
now-
that's what your wife said too, so let's leave it at that.
Part of your
Um,
sex tape, Craig.
I thought it was
Oh my heavens.
He's in Montana.
I
Dylan,
did warn you, Stephen, that this conversation would go pair.
Yeah.
I didn't get the be nice. I didn't get the be nice speech, so I'm going to be that guy.
Canary, that burning canary.
Dylan immediately comes back and the conversation
By the looks
goes
of your car,
south.
you should be going,
So definitely want to keep an eye out for.
Another
But
gold
Dylan,
finger.
I don't know
I
if
think we've dumbstruck Stephen there with our comments, Dylan.
No,
no,
But let's
I'm,
get back
definitely
to
looks
the-
like it.
I'm looking at
Okay,
my,
let's get
guys,
back
are
to
we
the-
ready?
pit boss. Actually, she's also driving on ACC currently and managed to beat her time. So I'm very impressed there.
So guys, I just wanted to know what has been the fastest time so far, because I think a 34 flat is quite high up there, right?
Dylan, you have
So-
taken first place. I think
No.
you're about 3.5 tenths clear.
What did you do? You
Bum,
blowing
bum,
smoke?
bum.
No.
You're blowing smoke up his
I'm
backside now.
hoping the head explodes early.
Okay,
That's my that's
Ready
my
to go.
plan.
Everybody in here. Let's
So
do a
that the
roll call.
36s are all that's available for the next
Okay, I just want to do a
qualifying.
quick roll call. Sorry, Adrian, the Horn Dog,
The horn dog.
Peter Brandt,
And the other thing, Craig, is what I realized, so I
VW.
could possibly go quicker the next time round, is
Jakes,
drive a green car.
Fari, Joneman, Johan,
Well,
He
Dylan,
needs extra
I
15
believe
horsepower.
green cars
Please.
make you at least 30% more
Please.
attractive to your sister. But if that's what you want to do,
Stephen,
then that's what you've got to do.
Yields,
Well, then I
and
must say,
Racing for all.
I am
Okay, let's go, guys.
pretty
You
happy
ready?
that I don't have a sister.
Lucky you.
We might
Okay, well, getting
lose
back to the racing,
sound.
we're going into the next session now. We've got Jake and Ash, which will be chomping at Dylan's lap time, I'm sure.
Oh wait,
Johan
Ashley,
he
you need
needs
to
to put
invite Sarge,
good
please.
foot forward.
Now I've got to.
Ash, come in, Ash.
I mean, when we get a bit of chance, I actually want to get a bit of insight from Dylan of how it was on the circuit with the Porsches, especially with how the sim is set up, and give us a bit of an insight of how it was to get those banking laps at the same time having to deal with cars losing it, cars hitting the dirt, and trying to keep that consistent pace, because once again, consistency playing a major role in this qualifying round.
Most definitely. So
Well, look at
before I
that.
answer
People
that,
are
just
rushing to get out.
want to say, Ash, please, can you just get Sarge in the lobby there?
I love Brands Hatch because if you push it too fast through turn one, just getting out the pits, you're landing in the dirt. And if you're playing on
0-0.
if you're playing on PC and you got Crew Chief running in your ears, all you'll hear is turn one incident, turn one incident, turn one incident, as guys
And you are the incident.
guys are just falling off there, and you're like, well, sounds like half the grid just killed themselves. And then, as you said, you're the incident the next time round.
Looking at the grid, I don't think we've had Steven in our previous qualifiers. So we should be looking at he'll be looking to get a good time in, get himself into that alpha tier. He definitely belongs up there. You've got Jakes and Ash, which will be trying to beat Dylan's 34 flat. Johan VDV didn't have such a great session the last time. I don't know why, but I'm sure he'll be pushing to get up into those 34s as well. Even a low 35, I think, might do the trick tonight. And then there are some new people, which I haven't raced against. Racing 101.
That's Wolf.
It says Rolf there. It must be him. It'd be interesting to see new guys on circuit and see how it goes.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's lovely to have more and more of the new guys coming into the series and really giving our old toppies a run for their money, if I could put it that way. And, it just changes the ball game up a bit. That season's all about the weird happenings. So, rabbit out of a hat getting pulled, guys pushing that extra mile. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's all going to develop as they get in and push themselves that extra little bit.
So just to answer your question, I don't know if you noticed, but what's happening here is you've got Marius, who's got a car in front of him, and what I was trying to do was make sure that I had enough of a gap between myself and the car in front. But part of the secret was that I was actually making use of the car in front slipstream, which is what was helping me just a little bit. So you saw that I was catching Donovan closer to the end of the track, and I also stayed out. No, used my environment to my advantage.
As we discussed previously, cheating, using someone else for your own gain.
It's only cheating if you get caught.
So, but then what I would do is I stayed on the track and made sure I didn't go off, so that I used all my fuel. So when I land up doing that 34 flat, is I only had 8 liters left in the car.
Nice, well timed. We were just discussing, Dylan, how are the tires wearing?
Amazing.
In the 15-minute session, are they lasting?
Yeah, so I did think that they would get a little bit hot due to the summer conditions, but I must say is that the tires heat up very quickly, so you're able to get your onto a hot lap very quickly, and then with me, I did 3 really fast laps, and then I would just take a little cooler, and that's just because my tires were just starting to get a little bit orange. But then once I got back on it again, it was absolutely phenomenal. The conditions just suit this car so well.
That's fantastic. I was saying to Stephen earlier how in qualifying, especially in this 15-minute format, with some of the cars, you sort of get the red mist and you don't watch that your tires are wearing off, and you wonder where the time is going, 7-8 minutes into the session. But it's good to know that the tires are actually lasting. I see that Jakes has just done a 34.5 on his opening quick lap, so let's hope he can find a few more seconds. Maybe it's the green car thing.
Well, you got to talk about also Andrew Horn is going to be pushing himself. He wants to better him out of that 3rd place after his last run. And having a chat to Andrew Horn over the weekend, though, he was saying he's super excited to be part of the whole SARCO guys, and really looking forward to driving the Porsches, trying something unique, trying something different, and really see if he can up his game from the vintage
the whole SARCO guys,
series. As we
and,
saw, he was a real hard contender that could throw the car around. So he's looking to push himself that little bit more every single time as well. So glad to see him going there. Johan VDV hooking it sideways though. And I mean, Johan is one of these crazy guys. He's absolutely, you know, we talk about Halloween and all those weird monsters that come out. He's the mad scientist of SARCO at this point.
I do agree. I must say though, practicing with Johan VDV, this might get me in trouble, is a little bit terrible because he's always chatting, and sometimes you just want to put that hot lap in, but really enjoy him. Just not when I'm trying to put a hot lap in. Let's put it that way.
A mad scientist needs to vocalize his.
I do agree. One thing I just want to say about the horn dog or the hot dog or whatever his name is this week is that I think he was one of the surprises perhaps of last season. He joined SARCO and was on the pace quite quickly, but not blindingly quick. And last season just came into his own. And everyone was saying, sort of mid-season, that he belonged in the alpha tier. But you know what? We've all had to do it. We've all had to start in the Bravo tier and work our way up. And he is now showing that he belongs with the top guys.
Yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely. And now I've got to ask, son, you using the, if I'm correct in saying, the Thrustmaster T300 with the Ferrari Asher wheel, Alcantara wheel?
No, I've got the GTE Ferrari GTE add-on, which was part of the deal that I bought. But the thing that I really enjoy is my T3PA Pro pedals.
There we go. The T3PA Pro. That adding a little bit more feeling in the brake and a little bit more into the throttle, so you can modulate a bit better. And especially for these cars, it's always about balance and having a bit more feel into it. But we were also discussing about the rim size actually playing into effect here as well. So how was it? Yeah, how was it having a bit more of a 300 mil rim? And do you think that's going to play a massive advantage to someone who's running a bit more of a smaller sized rim, such as your Formula rims or Formula style rims?
You know, I've actually never really thought of that, but generally the wider the wheel, it's going to come to a point where you're going to find what is comfortable for you. I've also jumped into the bigger is always better when it comes to wheels, yes. When I use the F1 rim, I've got that F1 add-on. There's a little bit of a problem with the gearing up, so I haven't been using it. But that has definitely got a wider radius, and it took me a little bit of time to get used to it. But once I got used to it, man oh man, it was incredible. And it took me, I'd say, a lot longer to get used to going back to the normal size as having the wider F1 rim.
Because that's another aspect to come in, because we went to notice you were going hand over hand to really get this car to settle its, set around the corner, and you can be sure that every single one of these drivers just counter steering the whole time to ensure that they get a little bit of a slide, but just enough to glide the car around the circuit.
There's a nice lap by the hill. Sorry.
No problem. So as we saw
through turn 1,
so Hill really showing what he can do. But as we saw through turn 1, catching that slide, counter steering just to try and get it, carry as much pace there. It's definitely something I think drivers are going to feel a little bit more fatigue in these cars because of the having to. There's no rest for the wicked with these cars. You are constantly working and trying to keep it straight and trying not to lose it through the corners.
The other thing that these cars are very sensitive to is the braking. You'll see a lot of guys might be just locking every now and again. So what I try and do is just ease onto that brakes and rather use the gears to help me slow the car down. The other thing that does is that you're using the back as opposed to the front to slow the car down, which helps with the steering. Because if you're locking and you're trying to turn in, you're not going anywhere.
No. The wheels can only do one thing at a time, either stop or turn.
100%. And And the drivers can only do one thing at a time as well: breathe, turn, or avoid getting hit by the white. It's
And either close your eyes at the braking mark and just hope that you hit it in time.
well, you're going to hit something, either the braking marker or the wall at this point. But hey, it's one of those.
So guys, I see that Ash has gone quicker there. He has jumped ahead of Jake, so 34.4 there for him. So 0.038. The Horn Dog's still in third. Peter Brunt is in fourth. So today's Monday, which means his name is Greg. He's in fifth place. No, we're just joking. His name is Yanaman. It's just the running joke that we have. Stephen in sixth place. So he's moved up one position ahead of Vaughan. He's now dropped down from fifth down to seventh. Johan VDV, he's in eighth with Racing Wolf in ninth. Sly Pete, I must say, he's battling with his car a little bit. We saw him higher up in the field early on. And then Adrian basically joined us a couple of weeks ago through our YouTube channel, and here he is 3 weeks later getting in the race. So really awesome to see him. And then in 12th place, that is Marius. That's Marius Jacobs from BRM Racing. So Budget Racing Midval, lucky to have him back with us.
Well, I have to say, guys,
Ash has done a very good 34.2 there.
if you watching,
So nearing up on that 34 dead.
if you
Sorry,
watch,
Stephen.
no problem. If you're watching us on Facebook, like our page. Lots of news to come. We're also talking about all the different apparel that's actually coming out as well. So Dylan will give us a little bit more insights into that. And if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell notification icon so you can see when we go live. And a lot of other little bits are coming out for it. We're going to be having lots of little other videos that might help you further down the line as well. So keep an eye on that. Lots happening right here on the SARCO channel. And if you want to get involved, get in touch with us and get it. If you want to do some advertising as well, we've got place for that as well. So we're pretty much keeping it open for the small guys, not the big guys. You know, big guys, you're cool, you got lots of money, you're having fun. But we like the small local guys that really stand out to really make this all possible. And so a big thank you to our sponsors, and our main sponsor being Auto Wash, Fourways Garden Shopping Centre for the season, which I gotta say, going to be rather interesting to see how he's going to do, you know, entering against some of South Africa's finest sim racers on console.
I think the drawing card with SARCO is the fact that there's a really nice balance between serious racing and the guys that are just enjoying their racing. You know, your Saturday drivers, your track day sort of field guys. You know, there's place for everybody in SARCO. And inevitably, once you've joined, you do want to go faster. And the alpha tier is the ultimate goal. And you'll find the guys are willing to share their setups. They're willing to spend time with you. And, you know, if you're willing to take a bit of advice, there is more than enough good advice going around to get you much quicker than maybe where you started.
No, 100%. So guys, I'm going to leave you here. I see 1 minute left to go. I'm just going to go jump into the other lobby. Just make sure that everyone's there. I do see that Sarge is in there, and it looks like he's talking to some of the guys there. So we are hoping to see him there. When Ash jumps in, just remind him to please invite Sarge for this next session. Just so that Sarge gets 3 sessions in there for him as well. Cool. I'll see you guys on the other side.
Oh, Jakes has narrowed the gap there to Ash by 2/10, so there's literally once again 0.02 of a second in it, and Jakes has finished up. Oh, big spin by Ash, pushing. What did I say, Stephen, about that last minute time? It's never going to happen.
No, unfortunately, as you stated, you've got to get it within that mid. And I think a lot of guys are feeling it right to the end. Those tires are wearing out a bit more, and they're unable just to push that car that little bit more. So it's either you're going to get it or you're not. But that last lap attempt,
we say that the Horn Dog just went 2/10 quicker to get up into the 34.4s. So very impressive there, just to prove us wrong.
Well, this is the thing. So far, Dylan's got the lead time of 34 dead. Second seems to be Sol doing that. Ash doing that 34.2 too. So, great to see that Jake's doing a 34.249. So very, very close. And then we've got the Horn Dog, Andrew Horn, doing a 34.4. So he's not too far off the pace, and I think he's going to be one to keep an eye out for as the Alpha tier starts to form at this point. And our Bravo tier, we cannot go and count them out as well. As, they're also trying to push themselves a little bit as well.
I do agree. The thing with the Bravo tier is at least half of your Bravo tier is inevitably guys that should possibly have been in the Alpha tier if it wasn't for a slide here or a locked break there. So you end up with a very high class of driver in your Bravo tier as well. By no means the kamikaze pilots that some people might think that Bravo tier is.
No, Bravo tier, as we saw last season, was definitely some very, very close racing and very evenly matched racing compared to the Alpha tier, where the Alpha tier was a little bit more open, as they had a bit more, how can I say, they had a little bit more time to refine their setups and get it going. The Bravo tier is the average Joe that just got home from work. He's got something that's put himself together and is no slouch around the circuit. So really pushing the boundaries that little bit more every single time. So exciting to see it, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the close racing between them. And as you said, it's just a little slide, which is very easy to do, one, in the car, and two, around this magnificent circuit of Brands Hatch, right here in the UK.
Look, I must be quite glad that I'm not qualifying tonight if I look how close those times are. I must just say now that I have the mic versus actually having the mic, that him qualifying quite high must be quite hollow that his main competitor, myself, is not there. I know he's done a bit of Craig bashing over the last few weeks. But you know what? If you look at the championship standings, sorry, Ash, you're still behind.
Just adding a little bit of insult to injury there.
Thanks, Craig.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is
Ash. Guys, you ready to go?
So
I just want to say as well, I know Connor, our other teammate, is watching. He's busy with exams at the moment. So I know he would love to be here and taking part in this. And I can pretty much guarantee he would be up there as well.
As we stated, that we're missing a couple of our usual drivers that's usually race with us at SARCO, but it's nice to see them sticking around, supporting their friends, and really trying to go that extra mile as well. So glad to see the guys putting in the support while they're off the circuit, but would love to see them coming back to the circuit fairly soon.
Most definitely. Ash, are you with us?
Roll call.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, that's fine. Ash, by my calculations, you're actually lying second at the moment. Still 2 tenths though off Dylan. Do you know where you're losing it?
No. Well, I mean, in practice, I also managed to do a 144 flat, so not sure, maybe I'm trying a little bit too hard, but also I was counting on that last lap with the lower fuel. I don't know if you guys noticed, so the last couple of laps I was going quicker and quicker.
That last spin, that one.
Yeah. So
we did notice it, of course. The camera was on you while you did that.
So, yes, I was I'm trying to push that on that lap, but unfortunately I messed that up on the first corner. But so far so good.
Now, how are you finding the new, finding the car, the Porsche? How are you finding it? Is it a bit more of a challenge compared to the BMW and Ford Escorts of last
No,
vintage.
much easier to drive. It's actually a real pleasure to drive these cars. And I just I've just got the hang of it very quickly, and I think that's my advantage at the moment.
All
Sorry,
right.
Ash, we know last season you struggled with the Escort. Is that because you've never been with an Escort before?
Yes, that's correct, Craig.
I believe your first was an Escort. Is that correct?
My first car was an Escort. That is correct.
First car. That's what I meant. Yes, sorry.
Yes.
What is it, a Mark II or a Mark 1? I know the Mark IIs are a little bit wider on the rear, and you had to hang on a lot more than the Mark 1s, or...
Are we still talking about the cars? Even we need to be clearer there because all that could be misconstrued quite terribly.
I'm talking about the cars. What are you guys talking
Good,
about?
because so was I. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, you know.
I prefer the bigger rear.
Okay, so the Mark II.
Mark II, yes.
Okay, and a little bit more carbs. You know, the carbs being a little bit wider, so a lot more fuel mixture could go in. Am I right about this?
Mine was a bit, yeah, it was the 1300, so
Okay.
I
So
didn't have
it's a
much carbs on that one.
Okay, so it's a little
So
bit
your one came
tighter.
with the small carbs.
I had, yeah, unfortunately, mine had the smaller carbs, but it was nevertheless it was still a fun car to drive. Whoa!
Fantastic. I in fact, guys, in all seriousness, have a '79 Mark II Escort at my workshop that I bought. As I'm only the second owner, still has the original radio in. That I'm busy
So
with
you
a
keep your
full
Escorts
install.
at the workshop. That's better than keeping it at
my
home, I
wife
suppose.
will get upset if I bring the Escort home.
Okay.
Okay. Well, maybe she'll enjoy it, eh? Yeah, that's
Well,
maybe
I'll try and let you know.
maybe-
Well, there's
Terry going and doing what he does best, checking if the grass is cut. And unfortunately, having to take some serious evasive actions through turn 1.
I think the nice thing for Terry is with the sim racing is while cutting the grass, it is a lot cheaper than cutting the grass with his V8.
Definitely so. It doesn't catch fire to the grass, as he's very used to that.
That is a bonus.
Going and making a bit of headway. He's really trying to push himself that extra little bit as well. And I mean, Brandon Santos came out of nowhere last season and really just showed what he could do. And every time he got behind the wheel, he was just going that little bit faster, and started giving the faster guys a bit of a run for their money every single time. So glad to see him coming into play and becoming a lot more of a field contender. And he seems like he's actually got the hang of the Porsche as he goes and powers his way around the circuit.
Ash, I wonder if you could shed some light. We were discussing it earlier. Do you know if Brandon has got a wheel yet?
I don't know. Is
Well, with the speed he shows with the controller, I think most of the alpha tier hope that maybe he stays on controller. A wheel might be very bad for us competitively.
okay. So what was his times? I didn't get that. So sorry.
No, he hasn't posted a time yet. We'll wait and see.
Okay.
Now I got
But I'm
to.
just saying he was very quick with the controller in the last season. It'd
He
be
was.
very
He
interesting to
was,
see what he can do with the wheel.
You did fantastically well with a controller. So I don't know if he's got a wheel now, but I'm sure if he did, he would be very competitive. We saw Ryan, also known as Sarge. He had a controller for a very long time, and then he went as soon as he went over to the steering wheel, it completely changed his driving style, and he's actually very competitive now.
I mean, that's where the
It's always
difficulty comes in. You're just having to push yourself that little bit more, and having a bit of different tech does make a world of difference. As we were talking about, we can see the guys trying to upgrade as they go to have a bit more immersion, have a little bit more control as going to it. Now, while I've got you guys in the commentary box as well, Yeah, for guys watching us on Facebook, as Dylan just about loses it into the dirt and completely.
Oh,
Green Bumper does what it does best, parks off in the grass and waits for everyone
I
else.
was about to ask, would you consider that car green or yellow?
He's colorblind. I plead the fifth.
I might be.
Now, for guys watching this and wanting to get involved, you know, I just got myself a PlayStation, I got the game, I haven't got a steering wheel. This all looks very daunting. Now, for a newcomer, any advice to the newcomers wanting to get involved, and how can they get behind and get into SARCO?
If I could put a little bit in there, the main thing, especially when you start joining a club, is not to get despondent when you first join. It's very quick to join a club with guys that have been running for many seasons, and you end up sort of at the bottom of the Bravo tier, maybe even in the Charlie tier, and people get despondent very quickly. Like I've said before, SARCO, fantastic bunch of guys, always willing to help, always willing to give advice. Very often there's some kit available, on the Discord that becomes available to guys, to buy. If you've got the money for kit, the guys are willing to advise on what to buy. But again, just get on track. I think with any racing, just get on track. And with sim racing, it is the cheapest form of racing. No racing is cheap. It is a bottomless pit. Let me just, advise you guys in advance. You go from you'll buy your PlayStation, you'll buy your game, and the controller seems great because you're having a lot of fun. And then you'll join a club, and then you need a steering wheel, so you will buy a G29. And then you want a little bit more feel, so you move up to a Thrustmaster. And then before you know it, the Fanatec start knocking on your door. So I think, just start, get a wheel, get on track. It doesn't matter what wheel it is. And come and join us. Come and have some fun. Come and put laps in.
Well, talking from, from a perspective of, sim racing, I started doing this a little bit more when COVID struck, and got involved mainly in the PC racing. Now actually progressed a little bit more into the console side of it. Officially, you can, round of applause, I officially own a Assetto Corsa Ultimate Edition. Oh yes, I feel proud of myself. And I'm probably going to lose it because my pit boss has been getting the hang of the wheel, and I've just seen, for ACC, she's done a 2:44, so she's getting quicker, and might be joining in with SARCO as well, so that's going to be having a little bit of fun. But as you said, it can become a bottomless pit quite easily, and it's very easy to get sucked in. You'll have a lot of guys telling you, you've got to get the direct drives, you've got to get the load cell pedals, it's going to make you the fastest thing in the planet. Well, Brandon Santos on a controller going and giving everyone a rough time. So the gear does give you a little bit more immersion, but it doesn't make you better. It just makes you a little bit more consistent in it, but doesn't give you that extreme pace as you would think it does. And
I do agree with you.
I think that's where the thing comes in, is it's easier to immerse yourself and become a little bit more consistent, but it isn't going to create that rapid, you're going to knock off 6 seconds off your time and you're going to be the next world's fastest gamer. Unfortunately, I wish it was so, but
it sadly is not.
Every one of these SARCO drivers are really pushing it to the limit, and I think they are ones to really challenge and go that extra mile as well.
I do agree. Your kit is not always. Your kit helps. It does, but you can. If you look online, you'll very often find that the really expensive kit seems to be the stuff that the guys are selling. And I think it boils down to the guys have gone and bought the best stuff, haven't put the track time in, and gone through the steps, and realize that the kit is not going to make you blisteringly quick. You need the track time. And you know what? Start off small. Get yourself a second-hand wheel if that's what you can afford, and just get on track.
Absolutely. And also, jumping into the biggest, baddest cars is not the very good idea. I know it's all exciting, jump in that Porsche 919 or jump into that Formula 1 is greatly exciting. But as we learned from a couple of these guys, getting a hang of those bigger cars or jumping into these Porsches require a little bit more finesse and skill to do it. So guys that have raced like the Ford Escort and the BMW are finding the cars a little bit more easier to control versus guys who have come from more modern cars such as ACC GT3s or GT4s actually. So even in the sim, you're jumping into the biggest, baddest thing doesn't necessarily help when you're jumping into like the Porsche where there's no ABS, there's no traction control, and it's all about hanging on for dear life and hope you're going to make it to the end.
I'm by no means Michael Schumacher, but what I have found, especially when you start off with a track that you don't know, climbing into a Ginetta GT5 or a slow car just helps you learn the track. Like I said, especially around tracks like Brands Hatch, where the bumps are, what the curbs do to the car, those sort of things. Which, like you say, when you jump into the biggest, baddest single-seater, you don't get that feeling.
And as we go back and take a look, 34.7. So the guys are feeling it a little bit. I think fatigue is starting to kick in for these drivers. So far, back-to-back back-to-back sessions is causing these drivers to go. As we take a look at Llama 80, over here, just the amount of damage onto that car, and that's simple mistakes that made around the circuit that just causes the tail to fishtail on you, and you're gonna just get it into the wall. Unfortunately, quite a severe amount of damage there. So I don't think that's gonna help in terms of getting that extra little pace. I think it's pretty much tickets there. But what he can do, and what I like to see, is just utilizing his time to follow the line, get that muscle memory for later on in the season.
I do think, though, with Project Cars, even if you've pitted and repaired your damage, it still shows it up cosmetically on the car. So that might be what we're seeing here. His car might be in good condition, but the game itself has not fixed the cosmetics.
Definitely having to push himself a little bit more. Skoltz driving, and there's Dylan as well trying to bail his way through. But Skoltz having a bit of fun in the yellow and red Porsche. The flames really showing what he can do, and try and push that extra little bit more.
Yes, I see Dylan is 1.2 seconds down on his previous best time with a minute and a half to go.
Definitely, maybe might be able to push out another lap. That can be an absolute banger, but it's going to be a close call to be able to do that. So we'll have to see if Skoltz will be able to do it. But Dylan in 4th place, so 1 minute leading it. Next minute, way down the pack as well. So I think the fatigue is starting to kick in, and
there he goes wide. That's going to be pit lane, and I don't think he's going to get another lap time in.
No, that seems to be...
That is done.
That's pretty much tickets for him, unfortunately. And that's what it is. You can quite easily just lose track of yourself around the circuit. And that could be killing in the back. In the background.
At the back.
Unfortunately, two cars coming together, and it looks like they were just trying a little bit too hard there. But unfortunately, Brandon DeSantos just moving it a little bit more forward and collecting one of the cars. Here comes Terry, though. He's looking to go and put in an absolute banger. Now, we had a chat with Terry offline, And he says that utilizing this downtime from his actual racing season to now, SARCO has given him a little bit more focus and a bit more challenge to try and get more consistent. And it finds that it also helps him a little bit with his racing, because it's a mental endurance over a physical endurance. Because yes, the car's not moving, yes, you're not experiencing G-forces, but you are maintaining a lot of focus on a flickering screen. And he says that's where the challenge comes in, is the mental endurance that's needed for sim racing. And that's benefited him in racing. So let's see if he'll be able to climb up a little bit more and try and pick himself out.
Oh,
Loses
one
it, no,
side, that's not going to be it.
no, unfortunately, gonna be kicking himself all the way to the bank and having to make a cup of coffee after that one. But
And that is the session. So definitely not, Stephen, definitely not as quick as our previous sessions.
no, not at all. And honestly, I do think that the bit that comes to it is, the guys are running a little bit more fatigued. I mean, it's already going on 9:30, real time. So these guys have been awake for a long period of time as well during the course of the day, and now having to try get themselves to push that extra little bit. As we saw Dylan, who put in a cracker time, one of the fastest times, but was not able to maintain that pace. And once again, we're taking the average of all the sessions.
That is correct.
And that's where it comes in, is trying to maintain a pace
I'm not
to
gonna
have an
forget. So
average
if
lap
I retire,
time.
then it
They'll put
automatically
you in the
goes back
correct
to
tier.
100%.
And I think it's, when you've got guys not having such great sessions like Dylan did now, it gives the other guys just that little bit of hope that, those low 35s that I was doing over 3 sessions might just get me in.
And that's what we have to keep an eye out for as we head into our next session. We've got Pete, we have got Johan VDV heading back out onto the circuit, and much more. We've also got Andrew Horn that's looking to try and better out his time. Andrew Horn so far 3 for 3 in his qualifying run, so he's really just trying to go that extra mile, but struggling to break out of that third place spot. And it looks like it does secure him into Alpha at this rate, but you can be sure he's really trying to figure out where these guys gaining that extra 10th of a second over his car. And I wonder if a bit of the mind games are starting to come into play now, where you're just battling to find that little bit more pace that comes out there. But I think we'll get a much better perspective from Dylan when he joins us back in the commentary box of how it was out there and what he has to. How was it having
Ash,
a little bit more of a
just need to
challenging.
please invite Sarge in.
So we'll see. We'll have a chat to him and find out how much of a challenge he actually had with it. Dylan, you back? Dylan, back in the commentary box with us.
I don't know. He doesn't seem to be responding.
I don't think so. But
I must say though that with race car drivers and sim racers, I can tell you that it's not about getting into especially for the top 5 or 6 guys, it's not about getting into alpha tier. It's about, again, like I've said, the bragging rights of being the fastest qualifier.
And I mean,
Correct,
leading into the season, that's where it's going to be a very difficult time as well, because the guys are looking for that little bit of an edge. And as you said, the bragging rights come into it, but a little bit of mind games, knowing that you won up on your fellow sim racers does give you that extra boost of confidence into it.
It does. Remember all the racing that will take part for the next 6 weeks after this. There is a qualifying session before the race. And like you say, that little bit of confidence boost, knowing that you were quicker than your mate in the qualifying session, gives you a little bit more confidence.
And
I am back,
Hello.
guys. That was extremely tough.
we
What was
noticed
different, isn't it?
I just managed to get myself into traffic and then started chasing the times, pushing too hard, making little mistakes, and just letting that pressure essentially build up. And that was the downfall.
We saw there was a couple of, I don't think we saw too many spins, but definitely running wide. Were your times disallowed with that running wide? What sort of leeway is our much loved race director giving us around this track?
0.
As expected. It's one of the things that I've noticed with going over to ACC now, where Project Cars has given me such a mental block against running the curbs on the inside and the outside that I find myself staying only on the racetrack and not using the curbs. And practicing for Mazana, some of those hairpins, you've got to be right up on the red stuff on the inside of the curb. You cannot afford to stay on the black stuff, which is what we always say in racing: stay on the black stuff. And it is purely just Project Cars and our much loved race director that has kept us there. I've been disconnected though from the director's role.
Well, rest assured, in PC we have a.
If you do, sorry, Stephen, but Craig, if you do go back in, it will give you that director's role again.
I will go in there.
It was probably what had happened is that Sarge tried to come back into the lobby. We don't know what's happening with Sarge. Is that he keeps disconnecting every time he tries to come in.
Well,
okay, perfect. I'm joining again.
In PC we have a thing called iRacing, and iRacing pretty much goes, oh, you sniffed that curb, you get penalized. And you get penalties, and that's it. They will disqualify you for even sniffing the curb on most of the circuit. So, the track limits are there to keep it all together. But at the same time, it does pose its own challenge, because you get those guys that just push those limits a little bit too far, and they can unsettle the car. And we've all been in it. You're in a grid, one guy makes that mistake, and half the grid gets taken out. So, I mean, with such close racing, especially with these Porsches, what we're expecting looking at the times, it's going to be something to really just keep an eye out for when the guys try and push themselves that little bit more every time through the races.
Well, I must say, Dylan, Alton Park.
Jeez, Alton Park is a crack of a track.
And all I had to do was stick, 2 seconds behind you?
That is correct.
Because of track limits. Yeah, so no, track limits can play a very big role. But like I said, it's a whole nother mindset to know that you can use curbs.
So just as an FYI for you, Craig, is that on the 7th of the 12th, so that is our second last race, we will be at Alton Park International. So you will have many comments to give there. So just a quick roundup of the track selection that we have for this championship. We're going to be going to the Autodromo International del Algarve. That's going to be a cracker. Donington Park GP is race number 2. Then we head to, we'll just keep it as Imola, because the full name is the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari Imola. That is the full name of that track, and there is light rain there. Not only that, we head to a Bonnock Bray road circuit. There too is a light rain. Then we have a clear race at Alton Park, round number 5, and then we head to race number 6, and we take it to the streets, and that is Azure circuit, also known as Monaco.
I must say that I'm quite glad to be missing the Monday Night Championship. As soon as you mentioned the Monaco circuit, I think it'll be he who has 4 wheels wins.
Yep, that is correct.
He who is brave enough wins. because
look,
I'll
we
I'll
ran-
never get out of first gear.
We ran a GTE championship there, and I must say that it was pretty interesting. And that was a 40-minute race that we ended up going around there with various rain conditions, and the guys managed to keep it. That's the thing, is that if you get enough practice, you are able to find your lines, get the easiest way through there. It's generally, if you just have that one momentary lapse and you stick it on the wall, you just hope that you don't take someone else's race with you.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's especially with the tight racing that these vintage cars give, is you got to really try and keep it all together. And I think the Porsche is going to be rather interesting in doing it, because they are such a balanced car that it's easy to upset them, and it can play a bit of havoc into it as well. So glad to see such a massive collection of circuits that we're going to be going around. At the same time, it's really going to challenge every single driver, and we've got a lot more technical circuits versus put your foot flat and disappear into the distance circuit. So nice to see a little bit more of a technical aspect coming in going forward for the Auto Wash Porsche Euro Cup series. But we jump back out to there on the circuit now. We talk about the times on the circuit. We also talk about track temperatures to come into play. Now, you went and said that it's quite warm, so you're able to get on that hot lap very, very quickly. And we discussed how the tires are able to continue that little bit more, that little bit further. But now the guys are sliding them a little bit more, so those rear tires are starting to take a little bit more of a beating and see a little bit more degradation heading into the final bits of it. Do you think going into the season that's something that guys have to watch out for, is that rear tire degradation in sliding it so much? Because I know that was
not really. Look, the reality is we're only driving for 20 minutes, and we know from our previous Ford versus the Mercedes-Benz is that we had poor old Morris in the Escort, and that thing was spinning constantly, and he was able to keep the tires down. These cars don't put down enough power on the back to be spinning them up and lighting them up and creating all that heat all the time. So I do think that we'll definitely have a lot of grip, but we shouldn't have too much issue with the tires through the race.
As you see, Jake's putting in a 134.2. So far, the only car to break into the 34s in this session, with only 8 minutes and 40 seconds to go. He's really trying to push more. Now, as a driver, as time goes on, in reality, is the fatigue starting to kick in? And do you think these drivers are starting to feel it a little bit of, one, the heat here in South Africa, two, having it being a bit later into the evening, and three, these guys are now running for about 30 minutes versus the standard 20-minute races?
So I don't think it's too much fatigue. What's definitely going to be happening is that this is crunch time. This is the last session that the guys have to either make or break their time. Because remember, we take the average. So if I think about the average that I have, I'm sitting on a 134.6 around there. So I'm feeling confident. But those guys that are running those low 35s, the cutoff there is going to be absolutely crazy.
Well, your competitors, Dylan, would be Jake's, which must be, if he logs this time, he must be on about a 34.3, yep. 34.4.
Correct.
And Ash would be on a 34.3 as well. So that second session didn't treat you well.
No, not at all.
But I think that 34s in general will definitely get you into the alpha if you could average a 34.
Yep.
The fight is going to be, in the low 35s, I think. That's where the main battle to stay in the alpha tier will be.
Yeah, so we can just remind our viewers at home is that we do have some drivers that have already qualified for this tier. So we've already got Gerard. Gerard not racing this evening. He's been on holiday. and unfortunately got back a little bit too late for him to be joining us. Jake's currently here, so he's already automatically qualified. Dirkie not joining us, our previous Monday Night Champion. He's not joining us this season, but he is spending a lot more time on Assetto Corsa on a Thursday. And then we got Terry Wolford, who was promoted from the Bravo tier, as well as Peter Brunt, automatic qualifiers over there. So we have guys that are fighting for 12 positions for the Alpha tier, and the remaining will go into the Bravo tier.
That's where the challenge.
It is going to be so tough in the middle there. And I just know if we think of the qualifying time that we had, specifically Tyler, he lost out of an average of 0.012 over the 3 different laps. And that was our cutoff. So it gets very, very close there.
I mean, that's where the difficulty comes in. You've just got to get that little bit more of a push, but nice to see a lot of our Bravo tiers now moving into Alpha, and I think that's where we're going to see a bit more of a challenge, and nice to see some new faces coming into our Alpha tier as it starts to grow that little bit more, the premier class as we put them. But our Bravo tier really having to be the guys that are chomping at the bit, ready to go on the attack and ready to do the damage if necessary. In terms of times, and really put themselves out there. I mean, the racing we had last season was so close. We were getting into some proper photo finishes in Bravo tier. So they might not be Alpha, but they really know how to fight like the Alphas.
Yeah, I'm just having a look there. Jake's the 134.1, Ashley 134.3. So those two having an almighty battle in the last 5 minutes of this qualifying session.
As it all starts to come to a head now. 4 minutes and 48 seconds left of this qualifying session. And it's now, as you said, crunch time for these drivers to just try and push themselves that little bit more as they go around the circuit. Will they be able to find that 1/10 of a second to get into the time? Will they be able to average that pace? It's about keeping it all on the black stuff. And that's where the challenge comes in. You don't want to hook these curves and get the car to rotate too much around you. And I mean, that's the difficulty in these cars. It's so easy to upset the balance.
Talking about an upset, is I'm looking at our 12th position driver. That's Andrew Horn down with a 144.1. And I think he's had some trouble trying to get in a clean lap. And now he's right at the bottom there. And we know that he was quite high up. So I'm sure he's a little bit worried trying to get a last leap in there.
Well, Andrew Horn has so far been in the top 3 for the last couple of rounds, but this round has been quite harsh to him, but he does take a bit of a jump up.
Yeah, so there we go. So he has moved himself up. So that might just put him in that safe zone.
Well, we'll have to find out. It ain't safe until the fat lady sings, and it's all, until it's all worked out at the end. So definitely the guys are having to try that little bit more, push themselves that little bit more. And that's where the difficulty comes in as the time starts to tick out. 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Now, you got to talk and listen to the drivers. How are they feeling heading towards the crunch time?
No, there's definitely some nerves in that lobby. And just for myself, like I was just pushing so hard, trying to just get a good lap in. Man, oh man, I felt very disappointed there. But I do see that in the second qualifying lobby that the microphones are still going. The guys are having a chat to each other. I can't quite hear what they're saying because I'm plugged in over here. But I know that these last 15 minutes are going to be quite stressful for some of the drivers.
And that's a bit that has to be worked out. These guys are going to really have to dig deep to try and get one up on everyone, and that's a difficulty about with SARCO. You have to really find where you're gonna get that extra bit of pace from, and how you're going to pull that rabbit out of the hat. As every single one of these drivers are chomping at the bit, they want to prove themselves right now, to get that extra bit of motivation, that extra confidence boost heading into round number 1 as
Ooh,
we'll see.
sorry, I've just seen the horn dog. 134.1, 0.011 behind Jakes there.
So he is really just hammering in that.
Stunningly close.
So that's pulling that rabbit out of the hat, knowing that he was had 6 minutes left to go, was still down in 12th place, hadn't gotten in a lap just yet, and there we see him going and banging in that time there. So really
I
great
think
effort
maybe he
there.
was just teasing us.
That's the way to do it, is really just trying to get that one-up pace.
I think the guys need to just realize that, like we said before, it's an average time. You know, rather bank early on, get into those low 35s, and then push from there. Don't push for that low 34, that mid 34, and end up not getting it. Not getting a decent time put in.
Craig, do you still have control there of the cameras? I was thinking maybe just jump there to Jake's.
It won't let me in at all.
Okay, no problem. Right, apologies
I'll
guys.
be
The reason
on
we're
the
stuck
session.
on Ashley is Craig is unfortunately stuck on lobby, and the reason being is because there is less than 3 minutes left, so that's why it wouldn't have let him back in. So apologies there, but at least we do still have him in the commentary box with us. So 30 seconds left to go. Jake's 134.1. Ashley, the Horn Dog. So that's Andrew Horn 134.1. Then Ashley 134.3. Yanaman, a great time there for Yanaman, 134.8 for him. Stephen, he's also managed to get himself up there into the 135 zeros. Then it is Johan VDV up in 6th. Then Vaughan Hills. And Vaughan's been stuck in that 135.2 area. Then we've got Peter, that's Peter Brunt, 135.5. I'm sure he would be hoping to have qualified higher up, but he knows that he has already qualified, so he shouldn't be taking this too much to heart. He does have more practice that can be done for the first race.
So Dylan, I just want to ask you, when do you expect to start getting stalked for the results?
So we will be able to get those done through the day tomorrow. So by the end of tomorrow, we will be able to get those results out, and we will put them up on our Facebook page as well as to all our drivers in the Discord. So just look out for that.
Definitely.
That is fantastic news. I know the guys, as soon as they finish, most guys will start getting the calculators out and adding up and dividing all their times, trying to see, where they came and where they think their time might have put them.
So just 7 drivers left on track. The qualifying time is done. So for those who are still on track, that was a very, very tight line there for Ashley, taking a lot of the inside curve, but let's see if that does allow him to better his time as he crosses the line there. And yes, he goes fastest, 133.9. That is an absolute cracker of a time. So Ashley, the fastest around the track so far this evening.
I must say as well that Ash had a very good weekend in the karting. He took a 2nd place overall, which he firmly believes should have been a 1st, but rubbing is racing, and he got rubbed slightly. So we just want to congratulate him on that 2nd place. It was very well done.
No, that's absolutely awesome. Right, guys, I'll see you on the other side, and I'll come and join you directly after my session.
No problem. Good luck. But Ash going and pulling out that rabbit out of a hat and really doing a bit of a magic trick there. That first of the cars break into the 33s, and I mean that's no easy feat in these cars around Brands Hatch. As we know, quite a challenging circuit, quite a challenging car. But Ash going and deciding enough is enough, took the gloves off, puts in that banger of a lap. But once again, it's all about who can maintain an average pace. We've seen Ash has been consistently quick, but is it good enough to stay in that alpha tier?
Well, I think Ash is definitely, on average, probably the quickest at the moment. helped by Dylan struggling in that second session of his. But we'll see now what Dylan can do. Do you think, Stephen, do you think Dylan's going to try that tighter line that he saw Ash
Did you not
try
see how
out
we
now and get that
engaged
quick
him
time?
on Friday night?
I'm wondering.
Singing
Oh, that's
Kumbaya.
me.
I
Kumbaya around the
looking at
fire.
what Ash did is it really just pulled a last
Change
minute
your mic,
crack.
Dylan.
I don't think Dylan's going to be able to replicate that. But what I do think is Dylan's going to be focusing on, much like all the other drivers, Nico and
go.
everyone, is
Dylan,
to
can you hear us?
get a little bit
Yeah,
of
thanks
fresh
for the
air
reminder.
and let
Listen,
themselves able
this
to
is
start
the
running a
soccer
bit
is
more.
becoming a bit
As
like
we
a
saw
book
Andrew
club,
Horn getting
there's
caught
a
behind
lot
some
of
back
whining
markers,
about,
a little bit of slow pace
stickers
cars,
for race
unfortunately
cars, so you need to
losing
put a
out a
few,
lot of
in
time
with those
for
the
majority of the session. That's what
cars
guys
on
want
the
to avoid,
weekend.
especially
I will
as
do
this
that.
is the
Perfect. I'll
last
put
session
something in.
for them. They
Okay,
want
guys,
to
let's get
make
those
it
thumbs
count
up. Mark and Ash, you
as
just
much
gone
as
and laid
possible.
down the
So
new law.
you got to think of it. You mustn't get those,
Fucking hell.
Yeah, we
you know,
watched
that
lap, but
once-off time. You have
That
to
fuck. All right,
aim
sweet.
to
Let's go.
maintain those 34s if you want to stay in that alpha tier, and that's
I
where
do
the
agree.
difficulty comes in.
I think
it's
at the
like
moment, a
opening
lot of the guys, if I
hatch
think if
for-
they just
for
took
clubs,
2
you know?
steps back, they might find themselves
super
2
hatch.
steps forward up the log. Keep it smooth. Bank that time. Like I said before, get that 35, on the board so that later on in the session, if you make a mistake, at least you've got that time in hand. It's also very important for your confidence, knowing that, I've got a time that gives me a good average time. I can now go and try for that 33.9.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the 33.9 was literally done running out of fuel, last of the gap to go for it. So
Very well timed.
I honestly think at this point the drivers have to, go, all right, let the guys go. I'm not going to go straight out the pits and try race someone. Let the grid open up, get that second and a half spacing between each other, and then really have that clear air to go. If you can utilize someone else's slipstream, go for it. But be careful not to be the detriment to your time, because it's quite easy to get caught up behind these other cars and having to really fight your way through a corner, backing off a little bit more, and really give it a go.
And
Tyrion,
you've got to be very careful of not racing during qualifying.
Exactly.
Like you say, you get caught up in the moment, and someone is in front of you, and you're quicker, and you want to get past. Do not get caught up in racing with someone. You are not racing tonight. You are qualifying. You need to get that time in.
and that's where the difficult part comes in. So you need to give yourself that second and a half gap between the car behind you and the car in front. So you got to trust your fellow competitors to give you that spacing for the hot lap and to get it in. If you do mess up the hot lap though, try and move off the racing lines, let the guys go, and give yourself that spacing again to go for it. But unfortunately,
give yourself some breathing space and give it a go again. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we all race drivers. That red mist comes over and it hits us like a stone wall, and we want to catch the guy that's ahead of us. And most of the time, especially in the qualifying sessions, that becomes a little bit of a detriment to it. The other thing that we've got to also take note of is these guys are racing with the leaderboard on their screens. Now, I know for myself, I take away everything of that because I rely on my pit boss to give me the information as and when that's required. Otherwise, I find myself getting sucked into focusing on the leaderboard. Well, the thing is, focusing on the leaderboard and focusing on how much the session's got time, and not enough focus on nailing those apexes and modulating. I think that's where the other challenge comes in, is knocking out all the distractions and focusing on what needs to be done.
There comes, is it Tyler coming through now? Let's see what time he posts. Is his first hot lap out? No, that must have been his warm-up lap. My mistake.
You might have done
so
a
this-
bit of
This
mistake
will be
on
the lap
that
of the count.
warm-up lap. Guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly, Ash.
And
Well done on that 33-9. Do
That
you reckon
was-
Dylan's going out there now to try your line in the last corner?
Yeah, that was all down to that last corner. I was 2 tenths down in the first sector, and then I had a lot less fuel on board, so I just tried my best to push those final corners, and by luck, I got that last corner right, and it put me in those 39s. But
Nice, well done.
that was a grueling qualifying session.
Are you glad qualifying's over?
I am glad, yes.
I'm sure you are. I mean, your average times over the 3 sessions is very, very good.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I reckon top 2, top 3.
Excellent.
so I mean,
They're the first times are coming through now. We've got a 36.0 and a 36.7. We've got Gav, who's done a 34.999.
so the times
So
are
guys are getting the tyres warmed up, getting into the groove. They look a lot neater, if I must say so, than they did in the second session. Maybe they were listening to us, Stephen, and they're taking a little bit of a break and taking a bit of a breather and 2 steps back, and maybe they watched Ash, and we'll see some tight lines coming out of the last corner.
Well, that's the thing. It's just you have to take that breathing room, and you've got to give yourself a little bit more self-control. And I think that's where the difficulty comes in, is giving yourself that little bit more self-control, and it can bite you in the backside. As we see Dylan really trying to give it everything he's got. He's trying to make up for the time, but Gav still leading out with a 34.9. He has got the pace, but can he better it? Terry, who's currently in the pits, doing a 36.4.
Oh, Dylan drops it.
Immediately binning it in the wall. Now, we have to talk about something here. Losing it and binning it in the wall, or just spinning out in total, what does it do to your confidence in the session?
Well,
Yeah,
the time is ticking.
Sorry, Craig, but he'll be on the back foot now because you obviously want to get that fuel level down. So you would want to start like a little rhythm, as you say, get into a bit of a rhythm, start, finding a gap in the traffic, because now he's come back out and he's stuck between 2 cars. Yeah, and that's not going to help him at all. And
I just want to say though that he did mention that after his first session that he believed that he would find some speed by changing the color of his car to green. And since the car's been green, we've had a 35.2 and a horrible spin. So maybe Mamba fever is a thing.
It is the thing. Maybe he's caught it. Maybe he's finally...
Yeah, it looks like he might have caught it instead of trying to give it.
Yeah, it looks like he's not immune to it anymore, so that's very unfortunate. But yeah, he now... That is a good time. I went 34.7.
Each of these guys just trying to push that boundary that last little bit. Gav has got a bit more open, but immediately bins on the wall and has now taken out that very, very, very valuable braking marker.
That is correct.
And now that's where it gets a bit interesting, because you are trusting that brake marker to be there, and suddenly it's not. So it's down to muscle memory at this point. And well, let's just say that's not the easiest to trust sometimes.
Especially when you arrive there for your first lap after that board has been taken away. You know, the chance of you outbraking yourself, spinning and damaging the car halfway into the session becomes a real problem. You can't afford now to damage your car. You've got to get out there, like Ash said, get a rhythm going, find someone with a similar speed to you maybe that you could even slipstream, and monitor where you are quicker, where you are slower. Do a bit of parrot fashion learning, from the guy in front of you.
Which is very difficult to do, because once again you don't want to lose too much time behind the other guys, and you're not sure if he's going to sit looking at his mirrors versus looking at the circuit, so he might be making little mistakes that you're starting to follow suit with. But it's definitely going to be one to keep an eye out for. But I do think Alpha Times is definitely those 134s as an average to take a look at. And with only 12 spots in it, our Alpha tier is going to be very, very tight. And I think our stewards are going to have a bit of a long time trying to work out those 0.001 of a second between each of these amazing drivers.
Well, look at the gap between first and second, 0.06 of a second, and I don't see it at Seold. Is that Robert? Number 44 or 108, the car number, but he's I'm sure he's also planning to close the gap up quite a bit as well. 135.1, which I still firmly believe is where the cutoff is going to be for the Alpha tier. Not sure what his previous times are, but it'll be interesting to see what his average was going to be. But he will try and better it. I'm sure of that.
Well, the Auto Wash Porsche Euro Cup is definitely giving us something to see. If this is just that little bit of what's to come, I can't wait to see when the season starts up. And these guys having a little bit more time in the cars, having a little bit more refinement in them. Because at the moment, as I said, the guys have just gotten the packs. They're really just trying to push it that little bit more with a little bit less seat time. I think with having a bit more seat time, we're going to see some incredibly close racing from the guys. And having to try and really figure out these Porsches, because just to correct me if I'm wrong here, Ash, they do look like they have a bit of a snap oversteer mid-corner.
The rear does definitely rotate, which actually I enjoy, because if you just hang off the power long enough, the rear rotates around and actually sets you up nicely for the straight, and that seems to be how I managed to get into a good rhythm here. Just taking it easy through the corners, letting the rear rotate, and then gently accelerate out the corners, and that seems to give me a better advantage.
Now, I've got to ask as well, from your perspective, and Craig, you can also give a little bit of perspective as another marker gets taken out. It's pretty crucial at this point. What's going to be the thing to keep an eye out for? Do you think the cars are going to be far better on more tighter courses like Monaco, or is it going to be favoring more of the open, more straight line circuits? What do you think these Porsches are going to be a definite one to keep an eye out for?
Well,
I can chip in there. I think that, with it being a standard car, standard setup sort of series, I think you're going to find that more than it being the car, it will be certain drivers that'll enjoy the hard braking after the long straights, or being able to change direction with the car. I think that's where you'll see the big difference in this series, as we've got a little bit of a Porsche graveyard going on around there as Vince comes through that corner. So yes, my opinion would be that you're going to get drivers that will be better suited to, like I said, slowing the car down from very high speed, or being able to make it change direction. With a car that's weight transfer is so heavy front to rear, getting that car through S-bends is not going to be fun at all, which you haven't got here at Brands Hatch.
So definitely the challenge comes to it. And Ash, do you mind weighing in with your thought?
I think it's, I don't know, at the moment, Brands Hatch, it's a very bumpy and tricky circuit. And I don't know, the Porsche feels really nice around here. I don't know if it's because we raced around here in the previous season in the Porsche GT3s that maybe have a bit of an advantage here, because I know the track really well. But it just seems to really handle well through the corners, and maybe it just suits my style. better. I'm not sure what it's going to do on the flatter and faster tracks, but you can really throw this car into the corner and it seems to stick really well. Also notice the braking on these vehicles is very good. So all in all, it's a very good car to drive.
Well, Robert in second place, only 3, trying to push himself a little bit more as Gav tries to get that extra little mile, 0.59 off our leader. So trying to just give it that last little bit to get to the top there and get a bit more of a confidence boost of, hey, listen, I beat you that last round. So, I mean, these guys are really just giving it everything they got right until the end. But do you think anyone will be able to knock our leader off in this session as we got 1 minute and 20 seconds left? What are they going to have to do? How much do they have to dig to eventually be able to get that one step above everyone else and get that bragging rights and the confidence boost needed heading into our round number 1 of our auto wash Porsche Euro Cup?
I think Dylan's going to be pushing quite heavily. He's burnt off a bit of fuel now. I see he's been running sort of constantly for this, since that spin we saw earlier. So his fuel will be down, his tires will be up to temperature, and I reckon if I look at where he is on track, he might still get another lap in after this one.
Just
I think he's the person. As I say that, commentator's curse. Oh, no. So he ends on a 34.889. He definitely won't get another lap in. Let's see who... Tyler, where's he?
Tyler just making
coming across the line now. He'll get another lap in if he really wants it. Looks like he's going to try.
He's going to have to push hard, going through turn 1, really slinging the car around, hard on the brakes for turn 2, and just got to get back onto the gas midway through the corner, get a little bit of a fishtail back out there, down into turn 3. You're going to have to hard on the brakes to turn 4, really try and fight the car out. You don't want to get track limits, touching the curb, get the drive out into turn 5. This is where it tightens up on you, so you got to get your gearing just right and pull yourself up. I mean, you can go very fast through there and land up going into the weeds. So you just got to be so careful about it as he battles this Porsche, trying to find that 10th of a second to just move himself up. And you can see touching a dirt though, losing it, unfortunately, losing time. Tyler,
and I
losing
the record, he's going to frown upon that cut over there. I see Gav has also gone another 10th quicker.
So I mean,
on his final lap, and maybe he's pushing for a little bit more. Let's have a look.
It's going
Comes out of the last corner.
Final bend, got the gas, but I think he did lose a bit of time trying to catch that fishtail. Will it be able to get a bit higher? Doesn't look like it.
No, it doesn't look like it, no.
But has got the bragging rights. Gav pushing it a little bit more and has taken the top spot. But we'll have to see when it comes down to the average lap times. And
it looks like the green cars work for him.
Definitely. Unfortunately, Dylan not happy with his result. Was pushing, but unfortunately the dirt had to take someone down with him. And wow, I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the season has to hold. Brandon Santos just taking a nice cool down lap around the circuit, and very impressive to see all these cars really giving it everything they got right here at Brands Hatch. Part of the SARCO Auto Wash Porsche Euro Cup series, and I think we're in for a real bit of fun.
I think so too. The qualifying looks nice and close, and it'll be who can string together 2 20-minute sessions when it comes to race day.
Absolutely.
To finish first you have to finish.
That's the trick. Now I know the guys are going to be having a little bit of a fun race for themselves as a nice little breather, but let's take a look at going into the season and the guys having to really knuckle down on these cars to just try and find the right how they're going to get themselves to find that little bit of a tenth of a second on one another. I think that's where the difficulty comes down, is trying to give yourself that extra bit of pace.
I think so too, and it's holding on to these cars. Like we've said before, there's no setup, so what you've got is what you've got to deal with, and holding on to it for those 20 minutes flat out is going to be challenging. They're not, as I've mentioned before, the weight transfer front to rear is quite excessive going through the corners. So holding on to that for 10, 15 laps, depending on the length of the circuit, that'll be the real trick. That'll be the real test.
Definitely the case. But, Dylan, I wonder if you can hear us in the comm box. Dylan, welcome back. And definitely a difficult session for majority. And how did it feel? I mean, we were talking about the crunch time and what it does to the drivers. How did it feel knowing that was going into the crunch time? How did that put you, and where was your head going into that?
So once again, I was pushing way too hard from the beginning. Got myself into traffic again, and I thought, okay, cool. Now I've got some of the clear area ahead of me, and unfortunately, it didn't quite turn out the way I wanted it. Got myself a few slowdown penalties. So I had to regroup, start again, and just wasn't able to get the lap together. And unfortunately, that is one of the things that happened, but I'm pretty happy with my performance overall. I do believe that I'd probably get myself up into that alpha tier, and that was what I'd set out to do this evening.
Absolutely, and
very, very nicely done, Dylan. I want to just ask you, Dylan, the fuel. We noticed that the guys would go out and run constantly. How much of an impact is the fuel weight on these vehicles?
So what I found is that definitely there was much better braking with the heavier fuel, but I much preferred it with the lighter fuel. I just felt that it was a little bit more predictable on the brakes, where with you got the nose that's bending forward, dipping down. For me, that was pretty tricky to get used to. But as soon as I had the lighter fuel, I wasn't locking up as much. You don't get all that body roll, and that's essentially what I was hoping to get.
now
I noticed in the GT3 Championship that the R2 felt a lot more balanced when you had fuel on board. And once the fuel sort of burnt off on these Porsches, I think due to where the engine and the fuel tank is, that the whole dynamic of the vehicle changed midway through the race. Do you think that's going to be the same with these vehicles, with the older Porsches?
Without a doubt, that's definitely going to happen, because as that fuel load lightens up, the front is going to get a lot looser. So the guys are going to be understeering a little bit, but it's the guys that get to grips with being able to turn the car with the rear. Those are the guys who are going to be successful in these cars.
Now, in these, you can obviously choose between, even though that is a default setup, you still get to choose between loose and stable. What did you run during the qualifying session?
So I ran a loose for both of them. I've always believed that loose is fast.
Very interesting. It'd be interesting. I don't know if Ash is there, if he can let us know what he was running.
Definitely did the loose setup. Just had better cornering speed, I think, with it, less understeer with the loose setup. So it definitely seems to be the quicker setup.
just remember,
Do you think that will?
just remember, loose lips sink ships, eh? Just saying.
Careful. Do you think that your setup choice will change across the various tracks? Maybe sort of Bonnock Bray might be a better track to have, a more understeery car for the safer side over a 20-minute race.
Like it's difficult.
It depends. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's difficult to say because you wanna know what the car's gonna do. It's all about making sure that you can get the car turning in and you can get the acceleration out. What I always find with the stable setup is that the rear is very, very soft, so it squats nicely, but then what happens is you get a lot of the nose being pushed, and then you don't get that turn in that you essentially want, specifically through the mid corner and then definitely on that exit.
Yes, true. Well, guys, thank you very much. It's been a intense qualifying session. I think the times are going to be close. Dylan, new batteries in your calculator?
Luckily, I don't have to do it through the calculator. We just run it through our Excel spreadsheet, and it goes and does all the calculations for us. My days of using a calculator are done. So
now
thank
you
you,
tell
Stephen.
me,
You can put your calculator away. We've got this.
now you tell me. I mean, I was working out the Pythagoras theory at this point.
You've been
You guys
busy
tell
with
me
it
that.
the whole time.
I was. You know how difficult it is to try and work out. 134,
There's
135.
a whole 9 numbers on that screen.
Exactly. Yeah,
Damn it, man.
I was bad at math. Forget, I was terrible.
Right, guys.
So,
Thank you very much.
Fantastic, guys.
Yeah, I just want to
Thanks
say
very much.
thank you very much to our sponsor, to D, for coming on board with us and looking after our vintage. I almost said vintage touring car. It's like ingrained in my head. We had spoken about that so often, but it is our Porsche Euro Cup. Brought to you by Auto Wash. Thank you very much, D. Don't forget, guys, go check out they've got a Facebook page as well as a website. Go and find out any of the current specials that they have. But if you go there and you ask for the SARCO specials, they will be able to give you those, and that is, we're bringing them to you directly because you are a SARCO viewer, a SARCO driver, or just an enthusiast, and you can use the word SARCO.
Remember to
Fantastic.
go and like our Facebook page. If you're watching us live on YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll catch us live, and also when we drop videos, giving you a bit of insight to what's to come right here on SARCO as we head into the Euro Cup. And I can't wait to see how this all ends.
It's so close. But sorry, guys, before we end off, I just have to say, Peter Hademan, he got dibs on the first comment.
Oh, damn.
Sorry,
Okay,
Daniel,
well done.
not you.
Shucks. I think I sent the
It's a
message to the
thing.
wrong video.
It's a thing.
Yeah, 100%. Guys, thank you to everyone who joined us. Really appreciate all the support that you guys do give us. We do see that Karati also joined us to say, enjoy, guys. Remember that he was an automatic qualifier, so he will be in round 1 next week. And then don't forget, this coming Thursday, we have got the final qualifiers that will be happening for our ACC, and we will be commentating and streaming our ACC League on Thursday, coming to you live. So, guys, all I can say is thank you very much, Stephen, for joining us. Once again, Craig, for taking the commentating role and allowing me to race. Really appreciate it. And Ashley, that you get the weeks off.
Thank you, guys. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So Bill's in the post, eh? Am I right,
Yep.
Craig? Okay, there we go. At
Send-
You've
least,
got my account number, Ash.
okay.
Send them to Ash, guys.
Lovely.
Right, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you so
guys.
much. We will see you.
Fantastic evening.
We'll see you on Thursday, and if not, we'll see you next week. And until then, keep racing. And thanks for watching.
Cheers.
Yos.